Okay, so this morning we're going to, over the next 3 lectures, covering the 3 stages. And this morning is looking at stage 1, steps 1 to 4. Next week will be stage 2, 7 and 8, and last week stage 3, the last few steps of termination. This is the stage everybody has to address. Not everybody gets to stage 3 because couples often drop out.
Right.
So if you get to stage 3, it's brilliant, but this is the stage you all start at, this is the one you really do need to know. It's also the most difficult stage. Why is it the most difficult stage?
Yeah.
You've got a couple coming in who are fighting. So what we're going to look at is some of the theory, what are the 4 steps, what are some of the skills used, and the idea of how do you withdraw, engage, and blame or soften, as the terms they use. How do you get the one who's running away to stop and the others to stop attacking?
Right.
The key elements. So just remember some of the key elements of it. We're looking at within at how the partners construct their emotional experience of relatedness, and again looks at how partners engage with each other in that experience. So how do they make sense of it? What's their attachment model and framing of themselves and of other, and how does that act out? So you're always working with the emotional experience. That's why it's called emotionally focused therapy. You're not dealing with thoughts primarily. Now, there's a number of focuses throughout the process, irrespective of the stage, that you have to be aware of and play through every stage. And these are known as the 4 Ps. There's an experiential group and a systemic group. The experiential group are the present and primary effect, and the systemic elements are processes and positions and patterns of interacting. Okay? You're acting as a process consultant. So, present experience is you are working in the present. You deal with the past when it comes present to validate the client's responses as it relates to how they coped or survived. When emotion is re-experienced, it is now, in the present, when you deal with it. Not how did you feel then, how are you feeling now? That's a very real Gestalt type approach. You're working with the experience in the now. You focus on the current positions, you don't ask why, you focus on what is. You don't know why did you do that, you say, well, what did you do and how has that impacted on you now? So you just roll with eyes. What did that do?
What is it saying?
And what's it saying to you now? Not why does he do it, what's the interactional effect? You're working with the interaction. You're not trying to find the reasons and causes, but what's the impact? So you're looking at present experience, you're dealing with the primary emotions, particularly in stage 1. And you're validating moving from secondary to primary. So what are primary emotions again?
The primary emotions are the ones that are deep down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Not the surface.
So you're trying to get to the primary emotions. The surface emotions are a distraction
Yeah.
in any real sense. You're staying with the emotions and you've got to create a safe haven. Again, the idea of containment from psychodynamic therapy. As you are the container of the relationship, you organize the emotion of the past experience so the client can engage with it in the here and now. He had an affair, but where's it leaving you now? You're constantly bringing it to the now. I can't trust him anymore. I can't trust him now. You keep moving it to the present. In what way can't you trust him now?
Yeah.
So you keep it very real, you're dealing with the primary, that's where you're trying to get to. And from the systemic side, you're processing the patterns. Look at individually how each person is processing in the moment. So this is where you've got to have a lot of concentration. And you literally are doing that kind of questioning. What happens, then what, and then what? And what follows that, and how does that get resolved, and tell me more. Constantly you're working with it in the now. And you're breaking it down. You're just staying focused on a lot of the emotions and behaviors. Look at positions that each partner is taking in the relationship. Are they the pursuer? Are they the withdrawer? Are they the attacker? Are they the criticizer? What are they? What's their position? What role do they play in the relationship? And how does that switch? At what point does it switch? When the attacker becomes the withdrawer, what has happened? Because that will happen, and that's informative. When they switch positions, you've got a change in the system. You need to figure out what caused the switch here.
So what could cause the switch? What do you think would
That's what you've got to figure out. Why suddenly is this person now backed off? Anything can cause it. It could be understanding with their partner. It could be part of their broader pattern at a certain point. The withdrawer and pursuer do. This one stops pursuing.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I've got to come back. Otherwise, if I keep moving away, it's going to end.
Or maybe one of the partners has realised that they don't want to be in their relationship anymore.
Yeah.
Or maybe those are their limits. You know,
Yeah.
there's a point when beyond it's going to become dangerous, and I'm not moving beyond it.
I always see a couple has an elastic band around them. And you can only stretch it so far before it's going to pull you back. If you stretch it beyond that way, it's going to break. And so what pulls them back at that point? Is it the idea that if I push this any further, it will now break? And that's when you get a switching in roles and positions. And you try and work in the new position and new patterns. Once somebody switches, you pick up on that because they're doing something different. It might be a conscious choice, it might be because they now want to engage with it, but they're switching positions. So those are the 4 P's. So there's 3 broad tasks throughout that you have to engage with as well. Okay? Create and maintain a therapeutic alliance. That goes without saying for any therapy, but it's given here even more so. You have to work very hard on maintaining the therapeutic alliance. You're accessing and reformulating emotions all the time. So you're focusing on and reformulating the emotions into what? What are you linking the emotional behavior to?
Attachments?
Attachments.
Yes.
Bringing it back to attachment emotions, attachment descriptions, back to primary emotions of anger, abandonment, whatever it might be. Okay? Not the surface reaction, the secondary emotion. Always reforming it into the primary. And you're trying to restructure key interactions throughout. And we'll come to what you do for that called enactments. So in therapeutic alliance, straightforward stuff that we know in empathic attunement, acceptance, genuineness, continuing support and processes, reformulating emotion, you're focusing on fostering an emotional focus primary, and secondary emotions is where you're picking up throughout. But when you're focusing on emotions, you need to do 3 things. You need to get involved with it in the here and now of the emotion, explore the process of the emotional, discover its personal basis, and then switch it to engaging with the primary emotion. So how are you feeling? Where does this come from? What's the attachment need? So you're not just dismissing, you still have to do the usual empathic validation of the emotion. You're really angry when he doesn't do whatever it might be. What's the experience been of this? Is there a history of this? Who else has done this in your life? Oh, okay, so this seems as if when he doesn't do X that he's just disregarding you and you're not important, and it feels as if you just are invisible. So as a child this did happen a lot? Who left you feeling invisible? That kind of language that you keep moving down, and that's the pattern you're doing the whole time. So it's very structured work. It's very nuanced work, but it's very structured work. In interventions, you track and reflect the patterns and cycles of interactions. So you're a systemic therapist in this sense. You're not interpreting, you're describing. reframing it, and reframing the negative cycles into attachment responses. Her nagging of you to do it is a need to be seen by you.
Such a translating.
Yeah, acting as a translator into emotional attachment needs. When somebody has an emotional attachment need that is childlike, what are we going to do? Maybe a psychopath is going to beat that to death. Afterwards I remember, oh, it's like seeing a kitten being hurt. What do? You pick it up.
You nurture it.
You want to nurture. And that's what you're trying to evoke in the growing partner mainly, is a nurturing turning back to nurture, to pick up the wounded other. So what you're really trying to highlight for both of them is that they both are carrying the childhood wounds of attachment. And that their secondary behaviors are defenses against that childhood wound. So his anger and bluster is that he's actually feeling really frightened that you're going to leave him. The moment he begins saying, when he gets angry and blustery, he's scared, I'm not seeing him, I'm going to leave him. How are you going to respond? You can no longer see the anger and bluster as anger and bluster. It's now a hurt, frightened person who feels they're about to be abandoned. And that's the transformation.
But then you can get stuck on this, can't you? There will be sometimes cases when you won't get the positive response from one of
Oh, absolutely. You won't get the positive response in the beginning because they've been hurt too many times.
Yeah.
Why should I show her that?
Yeah. One should always make the effort.
Yeah. Okay? And that's the stuck patterns that couples get into. But as you reframe and hold and validate and model that you can hold the other's emotion and bring them forward again, so they begin to trust.
Yeah.
So this comes through to the step 3 in the interventions here, is using enactments to shape interactions. You're choreographing new events to modify step by step each person's position. You are using the old-fashioned communication skills training, but from an emotional model. You're teaching them how to talk to each other again, but from an emotional position, not from communication position.
Yeah.
So they're using that idea.
From an honest position.
And to restructure the interactions, you're using enactments. Okay? This is not acting out. It's an enactment to develop new behavior. Not for them to have a Barney in the room in front of you. You've got to learn to try and hold and contain that and block and stop those kinds of fights before they get out of hand. So you're trying to reshape the interaction. You enact present positions where they are in the room at that moment. You turn new emotional experience into new interactions. And you highlight really occurring responses. So if somebody normally wouldn't, he leans forward or offers a warm response of some kind, you pick up on that.
Yeah, so true.
You pick up on the exceptions, not the usual. And you try and
Being a
pull that
silent
forward. Yeah. And you highlight it. You can do it. Oh, see, he showed a glimmer.
Yeah.
Okay.
But is that all? It's something.
Yeah.
It's a beginning point. He's testing the water. Is he going to get burnt? Or are you going to say, okay, thank you?
Yeah.
So in enactments, it's a very structured process. First part, you make the request to make contact, so it's very clear. It's like a behavior change request, to use the margotherapy term. They have, in margotherapy, have a similar process called behavior change request. This is what I need you to do for me. And it's very structured, and the other has a process for responding. Okay? As a therapist, you maintain the focus on the current behavior, you block escape routes, So no, we're not talking about that now. Get off the kitchen sink, we're on this. We're talking about the milk in the fridge.
So is this about coming back, bringing them back to the
Bringing it back to the now, keeping it in the here and now throughout, so it becomes real. You've got to contain and frame any escalations. Oh, here we go again. Pull it back down. Process each partner's experience of the enactment. So you ask, you've shared, you've worked with them, you've reframed a behavior into an attachment element that they've brought. They've brought into it, then you can move towards a possible enactment. Can you share with your partner that when you get so frustrated and bitchy that actually you're just so scared that you're not good enough for it? Can you just try to take it? And you hold that and just give it a shot. Oh, and you're not able to listen to me. Well, invariably, that's the first responsibility, is they won't take me seriously. You'll have a series of resistances from the person who you're asking to make the connection with. Because they haven't heard previously. Why should I do it now?
It's difficult. And it's difficult. It's a learning process.
It's a learning. But it's also more than learning. You're asking them to take the very thing that is hurting and to give it to the one who's hurt them.
Yeah.
It's almost a paradox, isn't it?
Yeah, really. Yeah.
That's really risk-taking behavior enactment. So start little.
So baby steps really with that.
Little.
Testing the waters.
Yes. Okay. Small little steps, but each of the behavior change requests is always connected to emotional attachment style elements.
Yeah.
And throughout that, you use risk. Okay? That's how you keep working with them throughout. Intentionally repeat phrases that the client uses. And use immediately. Boom, boom, boom. Create a picture in words. Don't say, oh, you've got a detached attachment disorder. Meaningless. Can you create me a picture in words of a detached attachment disorder, anyone?
How long have you got?
You're really scared to connect with other people. So you keep yourself separate so you don't get hurt. There you've got an attached attachment disorder described. So you need to know those categories and know how to put them in everyday language. Don't get technical. So keep it simple and concise and slow. You slowing the process down. By slowing it down, you're stopping escalation. Can you just come back to that? Can you just stay with this? You need to stay with this a little longer. So can you tell me a little more? And then what? What else? Soft, soothing voice. And use the client's words and phrases as much as possible. Repeat keywords is important because clients in an emotional state don't hear, don't process. They're not in process mode, they're in emotional mode. So, fight, flight. You've got primary reactions happening. And you have to keep knocking at the door saying, no, you're not about to die. He's not a snake. So what we actually see is a lot of YouTube videos up of EFT. Look at them, watch them. Some are good, some are bad. A lot of short ones by Johnson. It may seem that she goes on and on about the same issue. But they've said that, we've spoken about that. But they're trying to move from head to heart. Okay? It's about hearing these things and afterwards finding nothing horrible happen. That people helps people tolerate the emotions and feel safe when they express them. So by holding them and rather than letting them escape in the emotional space, who died? The roof falling? Was there an earthquake? You don't really exaggerate it like that. Actually, it wasn't that bad. I've said it. He said, yeah, that's fine. not an issue for him. And you begin to realize, this is my issue, not his. This is my response, not your. It's safe. Okay? So again, using the risk element, speaking slowly, calmly and patiently to keep them engaged, it sets the tone, using a lot of reflective statements throughout. Okay? The words to describe what they see in the other, the power of these emotions, validation of their feelings throughout. You also use evocative questions. What's happening now for you as I say that? What's it like to say that out loud here and now? You're trying to get to the exception, the things they don't normally talk about. Drawing attention to the meta emotions, or emotions about emotions and expressing of feelings. So how do you feel about saying that feeling that you feel you're going to be abandoned? So you're staying on feelings throughout, not cognitions. So CBT therapists have to change a bit of mindset in using EFT, if you do. But there is a lot of cognitive processing, I think, built into the model, inherent within it. Okay?
Similar techniques.
Yeah, very similar techniques. And help a partner speaking by being mindful of the moment, attending to their bodily feelings and how they talk, and they have to own in a very concrete way their feelings. In the now. They have to own their feelings. We also use a lot of heightening of the feelings, because often people have learned to suppress, deaden it, not feel it. So you use evocative, heightening language. When he has got, he feels like you're about to die. Feels like a noose around your throat and strangle you at any time. Captures the emotional experience. Asking one person to repeat something to the partner. You know, you're raising the emotional temperature, but you're also learning to hold it.
Yeah.
So, the 5 basic moves. Oh, I can't really read that. It's wrong colours.
Actually, yeah. The orange and the red, it's not working.
Not good colours. But yeah, I'll read that to you. So this is the moves you use throughout. Part of the P's, part of the processes. So you reflect the present process, both within and between. That's what we've been saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Explore primary emotions for new emotions. Step 2. So you're moving from surface to primary. Step 3. Set up coherent enactments. Pass more primary emotion to the partner. Okay. So once you can't go to enactment until you've got the primary emotions defined and established and accepted. Then you can move into enactments. Process the enactment, how it feels to tell and to hear. So not only does the person try, you also then engage with the other. What is it like to get that? What are you feeling? What difference has this made? How do you see your partner now? Those kinds of elements. And you integrate, validate, and reflect the process of finishing the movement to new behavior. What Johnson calls, you have to tie the bow. So those are things you're doing all the time. So your role as a therapist in stage 1 is primarily developing the alliance, therapeutic alliance, identifying the negative cycle, identifying the underlying emotions, work to de-escalate the negative cycle, engage the withdrawer, and soften the pursuer. Those are your main roles in stage 1. So, in stage 1 you have the 4 steps. To identify the relational conflict issues, negative interaction cycle, access the underlying attachment needs, reframe the problem in terms of a cycle and attachment needs. So what are those in a little more detail? Stage 1 is the hardest part. You've got to get to them to engage. Trust the process. You would sell them the model as well in some ways. So the hardest part is you're seeking out vulnerable emotions. What's going to happen when you do that to people?
It's going to get their, some of them might get their back up, really. Yeah.
You're going to get secondary reactions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like touching the sore spot. Does that hurt? Like doctors do. Does that hurt? Yes! And you're touching the sore spot. You're going to get a response. You're going to get a secondary response.
Yeah.
So it makes it difficult. So you've got to hold. You're moving from uncomfortable to the upset and to the hurt. That's the way she puts it. Okay, and we're dealing with a whole issue around cultural stereotypes. Men don't cry. Okay, women aren't strong. You need to think about what are the cultural stereotypes, what are the messages about being non-assertive, being seen as too strong and dominant for the man, that's going to make him feel weak, whatever. Lots of issues around that need to be addressed as well. And as a therapist, you need to take the blame off them and allow them to be vulnerable and real. And you say, society, cowboys don't cry, but you're not a cowboy, are you? That's what he isn't, a cowboy. Yeah, and you work with the idea of the stereotypes, and that in this room, it can go. Nobody can be seeing this here. Okay. That some emotions are going to be uncomfortable, and you're going to have to uncover them. And what you're trying to do, you're almost saying they're victims to society's roles and rules. What are they fighting about, and how are they related to their core attachment issues is the key element. Okay? So, part of that step one, you're creating the alliance, but what is the fight about? And is that attached to an attachment issue? If it's not attached to an attachment issue, then something else is being dealt with here. Okay? You can't link a fight into an attachment issue, then it's not about attachment issues. Not about some of the core elements. You might need to take another therapeutic process. Not everything is about attachment. Okay?
What do you mean? Not everything is about attachment.
You can't bring everything out into attachment. Sometimes it's plain practical issues. And he spends too bloody much.
Right, okay.
Yeah?
But that underlying could be an attachment.
Yeah, might.
Yes.
They might not. But sometimes they will not, they're not always.
Just being flamboyant.
Okay. So establishing the alliance, which we've said. So you're really looking at identifying those conflicts. So what you're looking for are the more of the same fights. Not a new fight, because most couples can resolve their fights. Think about the fights you have, and the ones that get resolved, and the ones that are here we go again. It's the ones about here we go again are the ones that you need to pick up on. So assessment and identifying the relational conflict are all part of step one. It's assessment and reframing happening at one. They're not really separate. The background is important only as it impacts on current life dynamics and is not an insight into the family history kind of therapy. So you're not getting a family history. You don't get a traditional family history from each partner.
Yeah.
You only get the family history in relation to the stuck fight.
Yeah.
Okay?
Because if you go individual, that's like individual therapy. Really,
Yeah.
that's not.
Now ask them what they hope to gain from therapy. To focus them. Move their separate complaints into one and tie this to a plan of treatment and contract for therapy. Sometimes you may see them together, sometimes you'll see them apart, but when you're doing, it's about how you're going to work together. Always bringing them back to working together. So, depending on the various variations in the EFT model, that you see them as a couple, then you see each one individually, and you see them as a couple again. And that's your assessment phase, first 4 sessions. And then you make the decision to either continue or not. Some don't do the individual sessions, they continue as 2 or 3 couple sessions. But at a certain point, by session 3 or 4, you're coming to an agreed idea about the issues. You might think of some of the secondary issues, but hopefully by then some of it, you frame them into a description of their dance, of the interactional issue, of the relationship issue. Not John's drinking is the issue, necessarily. Or, it's got to be a relational definition. If you haven't reached a relational definition, then you're not ready. John's drinking takes him away, resulting in you being abandoned and almost feeling as if you're a single parent. And as a result, the kids feel out of control and uncontained, and you need to get you back closer together. So there's a way in which you begin to think about framing it in terms of a relationship description. Again, you're using A to B, B to A. And when he goes off drinking with his mates, you react, and this causes him to react, and so we're in a dance.
Yeah.
And use that. It's a nice term for most couples. If they provide you with imagery, use their imagery. But you're in a dance, and we need to get the dance steps right. Are you on the dance floor? Do you want to try a new dance? Yeah. So they have to be on the dance floor before you can get anywhere. If you're not willing to work on the dance steps, then you're not going to get anywhere in the therapy. The second stage, once you've got them, in a sense, agreed, the negative cycles will begin to emerge. Couples cannot not show you their negative cycle because that's what they're stuck in. They will emerge and show you. Sometimes you can ask them, can you tell me a little more about an argument you had this week, one that you always have, what happened, and they'll quickly enact it for you.
They have it right at the top of their head, it's like, waiting.
And when you're looking at what are the behaviors involved, what are the perceptions of each other, what is the surface emotion, what's the underlying attachment needs that is needed. The goal of therapy is to see the cycle in action, identify, describe it to the couple, and work towards stopping it. This is the most difficult part. Because most couples will not have looked at their cycle in terms of primary unmet attachment needs. They've just got the reactive surface.
Yeah.
He does this, I feel that, I do this, he feels that, and so you're caught up in it. So framing this is, first of all, identifying it is part of the struggle as a therapist, or what's actually going on here. And then framing it as a cycle is the second struggle. And then saying it to them. So you need to pick up, in terms of the behavior, what positions are they in, who does what, who pursues, who withdraws, do they both withdraw, do they both attack, are there more complex ones, one begins withdrawing and turns around and attacks, what are the variations in those themes as well. But your basic one is pursue, withdraw, that's your most common one. I'd say 80% of all clients that you see in couples is a pursue withdrawal process. You got withdraw, fairly common. Attack is not that common, but it does happen there, because attack relationships don't survive very long. It's a somewhat sadomasochistic process in an attack process. And then you also get reactive pursue withdrawal. That's where I chase, but actually I'm pulling away.
Can you repeat that again? We didn't quite get that.
Reactive pursuit. The person is normally a withdrawer, but they're reactively pursuing, but they reach a certain point where they will withdraw. As soon as the other one turns around, they withdraw. They don't stay engaged. They don't want to actually connect.
Isn't that like a game though?
That's part of the pursue-withdrawal process, but sometimes you have somebody who's reactive, but that's not their true position. So you get a false pursue-withdraw picture when it's a withdraw-withdraw picture. And so you've got to be careful, but most of them are pursue-withdraw. So you're dealing with the two primary emotions. Remember, primary emotions push people away, secondary emotions pull people together. When people show their vulnerableness and hurt, and so it's like seeing the puppy or the kitten that's hurt, you want to comfort it. You see your partner is hurting and you genuinely care about them, then you'll want to make them feel better. That's what the nature of a loving relationship is supposed to be about. Okay? And you've got to coach them and teach them how to hold the hurt of the other partner. Because often the hurt of the other partner is touching a wound in them that makes it very difficult for them to hold. You're asking them to do the thing that is probably most difficult for them to do. So look at the language partners use. This is a lot about language and reframing. And the primary or underlying emotions will tell you a bit about what the issue is. I feel like I'm drowning. I'm dying. I can't hear me screaming for help. Okay? Raise those words up. Raise the descriptions and pictures up. That's the heightening. It captures the pain, powerful emotional experience. And you use these words and analogies to reach a story that both members can accept. Always framing it in terms of both. In terms of an interaction, not just about one person. It's always about both. You're bringing the two together. Secondary emotions are the easiest to show and talk about because they surface. But it's meaning that, well, when you feel this angry, what's underneath it? What else is? What are you feeling? And that's when you'll get those imageries. I feel like I'm drowning, or I'm burning in hell. You know, alone in the wilderness. And it gives you an evocation, an idea of the picture of what attachment style or need that is. So in identifying that, you identify who is the pursuer, who is the withdrawer, describe the negative cycle in terms of behaviors and reactions as well. What are the secondary emotions, what are the primary emotions? And method. Because it becomes quite difficult to hold all of that in your head. You can with time, but it's very easy because you're dealing with two levels of emotions, primary and secondary. And sometimes a secondary might appear as primary, but it's actually secondary. So it's quite hard to really hold. So it's very useful to map this out. And if you've got a whiteboard, even for the couples, draw it out for them. Very CBT structured, they can visualize it. But more often you can just describe what's happening. So you've got the line, which is your deeper underlying emotions that couples are unaware of. You've got the surface emotions that they are aware of and that's what they're bringing, and the behaviors that's causing the problem. So that would be the presenting problem. Okay. He's aggressive. He doesn't respond. I get angry. I also get angry, but I withdraw. You know, there might be similar emotions, but a pursuer has a particular set of emotions. A withdrawer has a particular set of emotions. So once you know, you can learn these. There is the list of emotions in the books. What are the primary emotions of a withdrawer and the primary emotions of a pursuer? You know what those emotions are, so you can tap into them. a list of feeling words that you can learn. So pursuers are hurt, alone, unwanted, feeling abandoned. They're your insecure, attached. They're the clingies. Your withdrawers are your detached. Rejected, inadequate, shame, numb, hopeless, unimportant. They're often in your detached attachment style or ambivalent. They want to connect, but it's too dangerous to connect.
So they're the avoidance.
Yeah.
The avoidance, the other ones are the anxious.
The anxiously attached. The clingies and the avoiders. That's your withdrawal pursuer. Primarily. Okay, so I think it might be, you can go on the next slide. Somewhere along, I've got the list. So the third step here is to access the unacknowledged attachment-orientated emotions underlying the interaction position each partner takes in the cycle. So you're basically describing that picture to them, saying, in common language, you are really scared to connect because whenever you connect, you've ended up getting hurt, and you always want to be connected, but whenever you try to connect, people just leave you. You describe it rather than saying you're detached and you're anxious.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? Give them a picture that they can work with. The goal is to help each member of the couple to access and accept their unacknowledged feelings that are influencing their behavior, to reprocess and crystallize their own experiences in the relationship so they can become emotionally open to the other person. So they can begin to own their position and acknowledge and take responsibility rather than blame.
Yeah.
Because so often in those, more of the same parts, it's a blame game that's happening. We're blaming the other for. It's her fault, it's his fault. And nobody's looking at, well, what am I doing? So you're trying to help them own, oh, okay, I'm scared. I don't feel good enough.
If you had a couple and one of the issues was an affair in a relationship, and the person, let's say it's the men had their bad woman's, they thought coming to the counsellor to try and work through this affair, how would you tell them to say, do you know what, it's both of you that are responsible for this?
Yeah.
If I was a woman, I'd be livid at something and say, okay,
But you wouldn't say that at that point.
Somebody's responsibility.
You wouldn't say that at that point.
Maybe men just generally feel they can have their cake and eat it. It's a cultural thing.
Might be, but again, you frame it in attachment needs. By him, what's her position, what's his position? What triggered the affair? We're offered affairs all the time. Why do we take them at certain points and not at others? Because there's something's happening within the primary relationship for that holding to have been lost. So the person, it again depends on what is their attachment position. It might suit her for him to have an affair because she might be detached.
Yeah.
And not one connection. So he needs are met. Don't be looking from a systemic point of view. There's a homeostasis happening. He gets his needs met outside because she isn't engaged.
There's something that's missing there for that to happen.
He might be a pursuer, anxious. He's got her, but somewhere not enough, and he's anxiety. So he's still pursuing outside to find that I have to keep pursuing in order to meet my need. It's still an attachment process that can be framed.
Yeah.
Some men want a happy marriage with the wife that's available. At the same time, they want to have affairs. As long as everyone's having
But again, that can be framed in attachment needs.
If someone has a healthy
Yeah,
right.
It's not general, but I'm saying
It's 2 men now, the whole bunch.
Again, your assessment will determine part of whether that's an appropriate couple to move with in terms of using EFT. The other work that might have to be dealt with in terms of managing and holding the affair. And what that's about. What's the meaning? Always, what's the meaning and function of an affair? It's a communication. There's different kinds of affairs. They're communicating a different message. Now look at affairs from a systemic point of view, you get a very different picture. You might look at it from a psychodynamic point of view, you get another kind of picture. But for me, affairs are a communication about the state of the marriage. Or a function within the marriage. Because there are many marriages where affairs happen, the other partner never knows about, they carry on, a happy marriage for 50 years and the partner never knows. Affairs come and go. Affairs last generally between 2 to 6 months. Anything longer than 2 years is an exception. So they're always brief and intense and end.
Wow.
And most affairs are simply about sexual need, not about emotion.
I don't even need a friend, right? I don't need to always be right. I would just like to be heard. I'm sorry, I hear that you feel that way. I don't want to be like that. I love you. That would be okay. I don't need to get the message right. I don't need to hear from you that I hear what you're saying, and I love you, and I don't want to do that, so I gotta go.
So one of your emotions is incredibly powerful to this.
Use touch.
Okay. What we're saying to him, if I'm hearing you right, is we're saying to him, I don't need you to be perfect. I don't need you to be right. I don't need you to be right.
I don't need you to fix it.
I don't need you to fix it. It's okay for me to be disappointed sometimes. I just need to know that I'm important to you and you can reach me. That's all I need to know.
I'm sorry you're upset, but you have my...
What I'm doing here is outlining and going and reflecting her attachment hurts, her attachment wounds and wounds, and listening to her. My assumption is validating her, reflecting her feelings, helps calm her down and be able to come more into the moment and stay with the present process.
I'm sorry you're upset, but you have my...
I'm sorry, I care about how you feel. I care that you're hurt. I even know you're getting caught in this dreadful dance here. I love you. I need reassurance. That's what you're telling me?
Yes.
You're saying to him,
I don't know, even though it sounds like I don't love you, and even though I don't know what to do for you, and I can't really be this person, and I don't have anything for you, I do love you, and I don't know, you're not telling me that.
So she's not getting her to talk to him yet.
Yeah.
She's engaging.
Yeah.
And most of us would you want to say that to the partner. He's not ready for that.
Yeah.
She's not ready to express it in a way that makes him accessible.
Yeah.
That's the thing about EFT. It looks often one-on-one. Because she's containing and holding and processing
Her emotions.
the emotional process. Yes, so he's probably the withdrawer, she's probably the pursuer in this.
He looks like the withdrawer because like at the beginning he's kind of like looking
So,
down and then he's like
quite.
wandering around. Yeah.
But this is what EFT is. You're working quite intensely with one partner because you're having to identify the emotion, contain the emotion, retranslate the secondary into the primary emotion. And de-escalate the process.
I don't know how big you are right now, and that you're overwhelmed right now. What I need is someone to know that you're still struggling to be no matter to you in spite of all this. I need reassurance. That's what telling you? Yeah. I just don't know if you Can you tell me that right now?
Ladies start with an enactment.
This is the first time that I create an enactment, which is a central part of the EFT. What I've done is gone in and tried to distill her emotions, really focusing on the attachment medium, and get a more clear sense of her core emotions, her primary feelings, underneath it was anger, and ask her to give this emotional signal, this clear emotional signal about these underlying feelings to her partner. Even in those dreadful moments, it would help me so much not to spiral down into despair, to know that even though we're caught in this dreadful clash of titans, that I still matter to you, that we are. That's what I need to know. That's what would fix it for me in that moment. Can you hear me?
And it would help me stop trying to be right or to make my point to you if you could
Naturally turned
somehow reassuring and tell me that you love me.
coaching her, reassuring
Or make some gesture
the language of
reach
emotion.
me, yeah, but if you reach for me, anything would be nice to make me feel like you don't just have nothing for me.
Right.
So she reaches for him, not here, has to reach.
I feel that. My immediate reaction is, nobody's doing that for me, and I'm putting forth one more effort. My finger is in the dam, and the water is lapping over, and I gotta do one more thing.
That's the common response you will get.
Yeah.
Why should I?
Yeah. I've been doing everything. Yeah.
So he's angry.
No, he's a withdrawer and it's like, you're asking getting more. I can't give you more.
Yeah, he's fed up. He's had it.
Yeah, so he's a withdrawer, he's a withdrawer, he's hurting. And again, that will be a common response. Why should I?
Yeah.
But soften the moment and now she would look towards engaging him more.
Isn't it a lot harder when women are so more emotional and men who are mechanical and logical beings? A lot
That's a
more harder
stereotype.
than men to
Yeah.
actually understand what women are going through.
No.
Definitely.
What you need to look at is this, you've got that cultural element. Men don't cry, what we said about earlier. Okay. Men don't get in touch with emotions, and that's part of the struggle. Yes, you have to do some coaching around that. But what you're dealing with here more is what is the man's attachment position. Because sometimes it's the woman.
Yeah, because
The
there's a
other way
lot
around.
of guys that are emotional.
Can't turn
And
around.
a lot weaker.
A lot weaker, like.
Why weaker? Why weaker? There's a stereotype response. Why weaker?
They are quite weaker than the
Rather than emotional. What's wrong with being emotional? But you frame that as weaker.
Yeah.
That's true, actually. Yeah, there we go.
Go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
What about being rational at the same time?
And that's the goal. Trying to get the balance of both and. That you can both be emotional and rational, strong and weak, as needed. Again, this is bringing in all the projective identification from the disowned bits.
Can I just say something? Because we have to end it at that kind of deadlock. When the therapist placed her hand on the distressed woman's knee, I'm wondering how it almost was, look, you don't love her enough. And it did feel slightly accusatory. So his defense was, well,
He was modeling.
Yeah.
He's modeling.
It could have
What could it be? Reach out. He needs a physical connection from her.
But he
And it's also about containing her before.
But he said, I can't do it anymore, I'm
Of
doing it
course.
more.
You know, okay, so there's a response. This is the first enactment.
Disagree with him and say, no, you're not.
This is the first enactment. So it takes time. He hasn't been trained on how else he can behave. Yeah.
It's strange to me, I think, because men don't really show their emotions and share their feelings. See, sometimes women, not all women, sometimes you forget they actually have emotional feelings. You know, if they shared it a lot more, then you know.
No, that's the reality you're going to deal with. You're not going to change the nature of how men are raised. You've got patriarchal elements. You've got macho type processes and culturally define how men are. So that's the reality you've got to deal with. Trying to wish everybody that men have more emotions is not going to happen.
Isn't there a danger of the male think there's a collusion?
Sorry?
Is there a danger from that bit there? Is there a danger of the male partner thinking that they're colluding against him?
I thought that actually, because it can
That always the balancing act in couple therapy.
It's like because you're two women.
But again, she's not getting him to attack. She's not attacking him. She's getting the woman to express her emotional need.
But
He's saying, I don't know how to hold this.
But if he's dealt with that all of the time, and he comes to
No,
through,
it's different.
Ah.
She hasn't gone at him in the more of the same way. She's expressed it in a different way. He's not hearing that yet.
Okay.
She's now expressed, I need reassurance. And he's still hearing the old message, and so he's coming up, I can't do anymore.
That's because he's not listening. He's just
He hasn't
responding.
heard it. Yes, he's still responding. So he has to be touched. So the step 4, and that was an example of moving into step 4, is reframing the problems in terms of the cycle, the underlying emotions, and the attachment needs. But the cycle is framed as the common enemy. Okay? It's not him, it's not her, it's both and. You're always framing it in terms of the cycle. The goal by the end of step 4 is the partners to have a meta perspective on the interactions. So they should be able to develop a storyline, a description of, oh, here we go again, type, or whatever, you know, what title, what name would they give this dance? You know, you carry on up the Khyber, or, you know, whatever, you know, there might be a name that you can give it. You know, one couple called theirs the Howling Hingers. Wow, that's what they called it. Yeah, it just made sense to them. It obviously came some reference to something, you know, and they were able to go, we're in it. And they allowed them to stop it immediately. One of them was able to say, we're doing the humming.
That's fun.
Yeah, and so like, yes, we're back in that. Okay, what else can we do? And once you can name it, and you can see it, you move from being reactive to being in control.
They must have been from
So the cycle is what you're aiming to get to. So softening, as I said, is part of the de-escalation and withdrawal engagement. The previous hostile critical point that accesses the softer emotions, which is doing, puts her into an emotional state. It's saying, these are my real needs, not what I'm giving you. This is actually what I'm asking you. This is what you've been hearing. So you're getting them more attuned and engaged, and they can then bond around, can you hold my vulnerable hurt, my childhood need, my current pain? And sometimes it's like the partners don't know how to hold that pain. It's too much for them to contain at this point. That's why the therapist will working very strongly one-on-one in the sessions, but bringing them back to enactments where you can. So research done in 2012 by Farrow and Co. says the blamer softening event is associated with successful treatment in EFT. Previous research highlighted the critical role of softening events and the heightened experience in the best sessions of EFT. The study examined the effects of the therapist's emotional presence in predicting heightened levels of client emotional experience in blamer/softener events. They found there was the therapist's emotional presence corresponding and evocative vocal quality were more likely to predict levels of client emotional experience in successful softening attempts. So you play a key role in how you engage. So the descriptions that Johnson has given are very key. The risk descriptions are key to getting that across in her example. So the emotional presence, she was there with her, evoking the emotion, but holding it in that soft, caring, mothering, nurturing tone. If you listen to her language and her tone, it's very much like a mother trying to soothe a baby. That's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with primary bonding issues. Okay? And that leads to successful softening because the person feels heard and held and loved. So the process is the blamer needs to reach out, but they fear reaching out, both of the view of themselves and the view of the other. They'll never hear me, he won't take it on, he'll think I'm stupid, I'm inadequate, whatever their fears might be. That's their internal working models of self and other. Okay? Then you can get them where you got to the enactment, the actual blamer reaching out. Support that. Can you say it like this? She coaches very clearly. She's coaching the language there, using the words. And then you have to process the engage withdrawal, which is where it stopped. She would have gone to pull him in, and the engage withdrawal reaches back. He didn't reach back, and so that's when you've got a block. You've got an exit happening. So, and a similar process would be for the withdrawer. Possible withdrawer engaging. What are their fears of engaging? Their view of themselves and other. They actually try and hold. You give them that support, and then you process the escalating partner's response. How was that for you, and were they able to de-escalate? So instead of engage with pursuer escalating, can they de-escalate or not? Analyzing the withdrawal engagement change event in the EFT. I put the, I thought I put the link in here. What I have? Yeah. If you look that up on the internet, it's full doctoral thesis. You can look at. But the two important variables, namely the EFT, the depth of the emotional experience and the quality of the interactions between partners, are the key elements to successful treatment. Okay? The depth of emotional experience, the depth that you can take, you've got to bring it to those primary core emotions. And those are the capacities to bring about the change. You know a couple is de-escalated when they view the cycle as a problem and not each other. So when they begin talking in terms of their dance, they've shifted from their individualized positions to a couple position. They can look beyond their own hurt and pain and see the partners. The partners see their role in the cycle and the impact on the other. And the couple can begin to exit the cycle. They don't get, once they see it, they can short-circuit it. Then you're ready for the real work now to begin. This is stage one. This is containment, holding, bringing them together. Now we're ready.
And that we're talking how many sessions?
4, 5 sessions.
4, 5.
Maybe 6, 3 outside. Generally.
That's when you determine whether you're going to go further or not.
Yeah.
To stage 2.
Yeah. You can't go to stage 2 until you've got this.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
So this can take longer. Sometimes it can be fairly quick. But generally 4 to 6 sessions for this. The influence of novice therapists on delivering EFT. An interesting one from 2012. Secure therapists perceive themselves as more skilled in emotional regulation, and which contributes to the ability to remain attuned to the client's attachment needs and emotional expressions, even in the face of emotional arousal in the session. Findings that secure therapists, when compared to insecure peers, are more competent in working with attachment needs and the overt underlying emotions of the clients. So you have to address your own attachment needs, people, and find a place of securement. Otherwise, their emotional reaction is going to knock you through a 6. Because you're working with powerful primary emotions. As I say, this is the most intense work I have ever done with couples using EFT.
And there's 2 of them coming at you as well, so if you're not secure within your own self, you're screwed.
Couples of insecure therapists report greater alliance splits. The therapeutic alliance doesn't work. So you have to really be grounded and not take on their attacks of you personally. That was interesting. So read chapter 4, 5 and 6 for stage 1 in the Johnson's main textbook. Riemann, EFT and intercultural therapy, some elements are there. There's the Riemann link. I knew I put it somewhere. So Bradley and Farrow was a reading I found last night. I put it up inside the blaming, softening, maps and the steps. I put that up last night. So it's looking at particularly softening. I'm trying to find if anybody's done one with a pour. I haven't yet. But this was the only one we had with Will, but it's a full doctorate of 1890 odd pages. But you can read the summaries and some of the key elements of what she's done. You've grown a lot better since we took the marriage communication workshop.